Hi, Joe Alton MD here, also known as Dr. Bones of the survival website doomandbloom.net. New York Times best-selling co-author of the award-winning 4th edition of the Survival Medicine Handbook and designer of quality medical kits at altonfirstaid.com. With many wildfires in the Western U.S. and Canada out of control and more reported daily, it's clear that this is a very active fire season. Tens of thousands have been forced to evacuate their homes and more than 1,000 structures have been destroyed. Although deaths have been few so far, thank goodness, air quality is poor in the fire areas and even far downwind. That makes smoke inhalation injuries a possibility in some places. Now you might be surprised to know that the greatest immediate threat in wildfires is rarely the flames themselves. More people die from smoke inhalation than from burns. For the family medic, knowing how to identify and treat this type of injury is essential. Now, many believe that the ambulance is always just around the corner and the rescue helicopter is no more than just a few minutes away, but in natural disasters like wildfires and floods, medical personnel may not be able to reach those in need. In these situations, rapid recognition and intervention by those at the scene can mean the difference between life and death. Smoke is a complex mixture of gases, particulate matter, and chemical toxins produced by something called incomplete combustion. Incomplete combustion occurs when a fuel burns in a limited supply of oxygen. This leads to the production of harmful byproducts. Common components include carbon monoxide, hydrogen cyanide, nitrogen oxides, and a host of toxic particles. The exact composition varies depending on exactly what's burning. Plastics, treated wood, synthetic fabrics, petroleum products, all of these are especially dangerous. Now, in a long-term survival setting, a poorly ventilated wood stove or a brush fire can pose the same health hazards. So how does inhaling smoke kill you? The damage occurs through three main mechanisms. 1. Heat and toxic gases injure the upper airway, causing swelling that can rapidly obstruct breathing. 2. Carbon monoxide binds to red blood cells far easier than oxygen, reducing the blood's ability to carry oxygen to vital organs. And 3. Fine particles and chemical irritants penetrate deep into the lungs, triggering inflammation, fluid accumulation, and later infection. Serious exposure can produce respiratory failures even hours after the victim appears to have safely escaped the fire. Symptoms often begin with coughing, watery eyes, and a sore throat. Victims may report signs of early carbon monoxide poisoning, such as headache, dizziness, nausea, and confusion. Hoarseness, facial burns, and stridor, a high-pitched voice on inhalation, are seen if there is an airway injury. Soot in the nostrils or mouth is another red flag. In severe cases, the patient becomes cyanotic, turns blue, becomes restless, and perhaps loses consciousness. Symptoms can worsen over the next 24 to 48 hours as swelling and inflammation progresses. A person only mildly affected at the scene may later develop life-threatening respiratory distress. So how do you treat smoke inhalation? In an austere environment, the medic must transport the victim from the smoke-filled area and into fresh air. If the patient is unconscious and not breathing, well, you have to open the airway and begin rescue breathing or bag valve mask ventilation if you've got one. High-flow oxygen is the mainstay of treatment, but off the grid, of course, pure oxygen may not be an option. It's important to know that even room air is better than continued exposure to smoke. Assess the victim's airway carefully. Look for singed nasal hairs, soot, facial burns, or worsening hoarseness. These findings indicate a high risk that obstruction is going to develop. In a modern ER, a breathing tube would be placed pretty early. If not available, you want to keep the patient calm, elevate the head of the bed or litter, and prepare for the possibility of performing a tracheotomy. If a complete obstruction occurs, you're going to need to do that procedure. The procedure is described below in a link. The family medic should support breathing by encouraging coughing to clear secretions. If the patient can drink, small sips of water may help keep that airway moist. You want to monitor closely for an increasing respiratory rate, use of accessory neck muscles to breathe, or declining mental status. Antibiotics, well, they're usually not needed for smoke inhalation alone, but secondary pneumonia may develop over the following days. You want to watch for fever and increased amounts of phlegm. Carbon monoxide poisoning deserves special mention. In the absence of laboratory testing, you want to assume significant exposure if the patient was in a closed space with a lot of smoke or if their mental status is altered. Off the grid, fresh air and the rest, well, they're the only practical treatments available. You want to avoid any activity that increases oxygen demand until the patient improves. This may take at least a few weeks. Of course, prevention remains the most effective strategy. In a homestead or retreat, you want to install and maintain working smoke detectors if you have power. Keep fire extinguishers charged and accessible. Design wood stoves and heating systems with proper ventilation. Now, in normal times when the air quality is poor, you can still protect yourself by staying indoors with the windows closed. You want to turn the air conditioner on. Most central air conditioning systems don't pull air from the outside. They cool and recirculate the air that's already inside your home. And you want to consider using a HEPA high-efficiency particulate air filter in your home. During wildfire season, prepare for rapid evacuation and have N95s or better masks available for short-term use in smoky air. Teach family members the stop, drop, and roll technique and the importance of staying low under smoke. The concentration of smoke is less the lower you go. If venturing into a smoke-dense environment, be sure to wear personal protection gear. A rescuer who becomes a casualty helps no one. For the group medic, smoke inhalation is a reminder that environmental injuries often outnumber classic burn trauma. Stocking simple airway supplies, knowing how to recognize progressive obstruction, and practicing basic respiratory support will serve the group well. In long-term disaster settings, knowledge and preparation remain the most reliable tools in the medical woodshed. This is Joe Alton, MD, that old Dr. Bones, wishing you the best of health in good times or bad. Thanks for watching.
Hi, Nurse Amy here. Just wanted to remind you guys not to forget to visit store.doomandbloom.net for all your holiday shopping, gifts for birthdays, Mother's Day, Father's Day, any day actually. If you want to help somebody survive a first aid issue, make sure you go to store.doomandbloom.net.